Under the same roof, we share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. And now do we stand in love's pure might, watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. Tonight, we have a great show in store for you, talking about a subject that is quite touching, to say the least. Many times when we think about children, our hearts are filled with joy. We rejoice greatly indeed. In fact, children are a gift, right? That's what many parents would say. But sometimes along the way, families start off as one single unit, but then they're not a unit anymore. In fact, the for whatever reason, the mother and father split apart, and then you have the children there, and oftentimes they're lost, trying to find their way, trying to make sense of what happened to our family, and so forth. Well, tonight we're going to talk about this subject at a higher level. In fact, the gentleman that I'm bringing on, he has quite the background extensively when it comes to public service. He's quite the man. So tonight he's going to help us understand at a higher level what it means to really fight for shared families and shared parenting. So at this time, I want to bring on Andre Rainey. All right. Nice to
Hey,
have you
man.
here.
Yes, thank you so much for welcoming. Good to see you, my brother. How's everything?
All is well. All is well. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful,
Could you
wonderful.
Thanks for joining us here. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for again. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. My name is Andre Rainey, former mayor of the great city of Peekskill, New York. Proud father of four beautiful children, chair of the New York National Parents Organization, and president of Fathers Are Important, based out here in Long Island, New York. And I'm just a person. I'm just a person for the people. I put myself in positions sometimes not intentionally, but I've always been one to appreciate a challenge. And one of my favorite quotes is Maya Angelou's quote, and it says, "If there's ever something that you want me to do, just tell me I can't do
Oh, wow. That's so amazing. When
it."
when it comes to the whole shared family, could you just give us an idea of how you became so passionate about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was, I went through the experience of family court a couple of years ago for my oldest daughter, and me and the mother, we went our separate ways. But the mother decided that she wanted to move out of the county and not tell me exactly where she was moving.
Mm.
So when I found out where she was moving a few weeks later, I had got a letter in the mail saying that she had filed for child support, and that was a red flag for me because I honestly at that time, before I knew what I knew now, I didn't even think it made sense to have child support in place without having custody in place. You're making a father pay a person child support, but it's not because the father doesn't want to be in the child's life. It's because the father doesn't even know what the heck the child is. And but when I finally found out where my daughter was, I filed for custody, and it was a 3-year battle just to get equal time, which is what we call shared time or shared parenting. The amount of allegations, accusations, lies on record, perjury, like there was just the amount of turmoil I went through just because I wanted to see my daughter was horrific. And just to give you a snippet of what I went through, my as I said, I was a former mayor of Peekskill, New York. My daughter's mother, she hired my predecessor, the guy who I beat when I ran for my second term. She hired him as her attorney. So, it was just complete slaps in the face from the minute I walked into that courtroom. And I mean, no regard, no respect. I felt like when I went in the courtroom, I felt like I may have been a criminal in my younger years and forgot, the way I was treated, the way I was spoken to, the way the case was handled. It was horrific. And then I realized that this isn't just an Andre Rainey problem. This is for parents and especially fathers all over the world.
Wow. Wow. So that must have been touching. So what was it that helped you to navigate through this? Your attorney or
Oh no, I would honestly say the passion that instilled in me from my father who raised me, Robin Reed. There's just been, even because the attorneys, my attorney, my first attorney was very extremely helpful. He was very soft, but extremely helpful. He was more of the anti-conflict attorney. So attorneys, when you go in family court, especially as fathers, they'll encourage you as a father to accept whatever terms the judge gives you. Um, and when I went in there, I told the judge, Your Honor, I haven't seen my daughter in almost 2 months. Literally 2 days after she left the hospital, she moved. And I filed for this petition, and they gave me a petition. I filed for the petition in December. They gave us I'm sorry, November. They gave us a January court date. So when January came, I explained to the judge what happened. I haven't seen my daughter in 2 months now. I missed her first Christmas. I missed her first New Year. I'm like, and the judge said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that." She asked my daughter's mother, "Why would you not let him see his child?" And she said, "Well," and my daughter's mother said, "Well, I needed time to bond with her." So the judge said, "Well, that's not a reason to not let him see his child. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you guys a temporary joint custody order, and then we'll come back here in 3 months to discuss an arrangement." When I got the custody order after leaving the court, I mean, I was hopeful. This judge seemed like she understands. Like he's a father that wants to be with his child. I got the court order, and the court order said I would see my daughter every other weekend and 2 hours during a Wednesday. And I was so thrown off, and it was probably the most disturbing thing I had ever experienced in my life. But you go from wanting to be a full-time father to a judge telling you you're only worth 4 days of the month to your child, and that's what sparked my interest to getting to where I'm at now.
wow. Do you feel like the father is set at a disadvantage on purpose?
All the time. It's an old mentality, in the early 1900s, late 1800s, it was normal for um a mother to have rights to a child, because even back in those days women weren't even allowed to work. So the way the system was set up is, if a mom has a child, she's a custodial parent, she's the parent of the child. Most men are out working, they're out taking care of business, bringing food and money home for the table. So it's been a common in our culture, it's been common to see women as the caregivers to children and fathers just the ones out there working and providing. You fast forward to 2026, first of all, women are working across the board. We have women running for presidents. Like, times have literally changed. So to say that we can change what the women's responsibilities were back in the 1800s and early 1900s versus 2020, but we can't change what the men's responsibilities were, shows how uneven we are. And it's very unethical when you go into family courts, because they still have the mentality of, as soon as you divorce with your wife or as soon as you break up with your girlfriend, she's automatically the custodial parent. You're automatically the visiting parent. And on top of that, since you're a visiting parent, you have to pay child support. When you look at people like Kanye West, for example, he lost custody of his daughters, of his kids, and he was paying like 100 and something thousand dollars a month child support to Kim Kardashian. And it's like, she's a billionaire, So there's nothing about that makes sense. And they say it's to keep a lifestyle. We're in a time now where everybody has an opportunity to succeed. We can still say black people aren't where they want to be yet. We can still say women aren't where they want to be yet, and that I won't deny that in some aspects, of course. But don't pretend that fathers don't deserve to be fathers in their children's lives because of some 1945 mentality that they're still trying to carry in the family courts.
Why do you think those laws have not been updated?
There's several different reasons, in my opinion, one of them is this feminist movement. This feminist movement, this anti-family, anti-structure. I feel like as a person who fights for shared parenting, even when I speak to some of the most angry fathers who have lost custody simply because the relationship fell apart, lost custody because the mother got upset of his new girlfriend and she moved out of town before there was a custody order in place. Even with some of these angry fathers who come out and protest and say F women, even with them, you'll never ever hear Andre Rainey say, "You don't need a woman." You'll never hear me say, "That's okay, be strong, be independent, forget women, just be a man." I never do that. The feminist movement, you don't need men, push for women, we women's rights, women's this, women's that. And it's like I tell people, everybody deserves equal rights, but don't remove one group's rights trying to advance another's.
Wow. Wow. Now, in your case, you said the baby was moved and you didn't even know. What
Hmm.
happens when the baby is taken out of state? Because I think that's a no-no in New York, correct?
Yeah, well, if there's a custody order in place, that's a no-no. So it was done to me when I was a child. My mother, my biological father had my sister 10 months after he had me by the woman that my mother was fighting over him with in high school. So when my father had me and my sister, we took some Christmas pictures together, and that really hurt my mother. And I was 2 years
Mm.
old. So my mother took me to Germany and never came back. I didn't see my biological father again till I was 17 years old. When I saw him, I didn't even know who he was because my mother got remarried. When I was 4, my mother was married, and my father, who I know as dad, raised me, and that's just what it is. That's who I know as my dad. But when I found out I had a sister, and I had another family that I wasn't introduced to because my mother kept me away, it it created a lot of confusion for me. It made me really look at things a little bit in a different perspective. But in the state of New York, if there's no custody order in place after a separation, you oftentimes a lot of fathers will tell you, like, the mom will get so upset, like my daughter's mother did. Fortunately, she didn't try to leave the state, she just left the county. She went from Westchester County to Dutchess County. And without a court order in place, that happens very often. And that's why we I encourage people, as soon as you start talking about separation, prepare yourself to either have a written agreement or go to or go to court and get your, set your custody in stone. It's a little bit different for divorce. You have to go through custody after you have divorce, but if you're just breaking up or separating, then it's possible that the parent could take the child out of the state.
Right. I noticed in New York all the time, and also even when I was in Tucson, Arizona, I was covering Nancy Guthrie case. All of a sudden, we had an
Mm.
Amber Alert, and one of the parents had taken a child. Why do we see that happening? Do you think it's associated with child custody?
Sometimes, yes, and I hate to say this because this is one of the things that we really want to prevent. But you see some parents that they confuse their passion and pain with progress. And what happens is, like, for example, New York State, we have a bill right now in place called the Kairos Law Bill. And unfortunately, this woman was fighting for custody of her daughters. The father ended up killing himself and the daughter. So what this lady's trying to do is she's trying to get a bill passed in her daughter's name. Now, the issue that I have with cases like that is, when you try to name a bill after a tragedy, you make people feel like they are okay with the tragedy if they don't accept the language in the bill. And I feel like it's a great form of manipulation because if something happens to one of my children, I'm going to put this bill up. If, let's just say, my daughter's mother decides to drown my one of my children, so I'm going to create a bill named after my daughter, and the bill will say no women can have children in the pool in New York State. Now, anybody in the assembly or in the Senate that goes against that, they're going to look like they don't care if my daughter got drowned. But that's not the case. You can't make every single mother in the state of New York seem like a bad mother because of your situation. And in most cases, once you go through family court, the communication becomes worse. The possibilities of mediation and working things out together becomes worse because the judges in there, they they encourage these attorneys to fight for what's best for the children, but the attorneys basically try to do like they do in politics. They try to make the other person look bad. So you go in there, and next thing you know, you're a great father who wants to be a beautiful father to your children, and now you got accusations, you got allegations, you got, perjury, you got misinformation, false information, and then some of these fathers and some of these mothers have driven to do things that are, inhumane and unhealthy for the children. We have a father that we work with now. He ended up getting custody of his daughter and an order of protection on the mother. And when the police went to go pick up the daughter, the mother came outside with a knife trying to stab the police officer. They arrest her. She got
Oh,
25 to life because she ended up killing the daughter.
oh my, that's terrible.
And the daughter was only two, I believe, 2 years old. So it's like these once you get in family court, it's one attorney pins the other attorney against each other, and they just make the parents look bad rather than saying, you know what, I think the child would be great to have the father. I think the child would be great 50-50 with the mom. Sometimes the mothers often want child support, so they'll tell the attorney, say whatever you can about him because I want child support. So I want financial support. So I want my child and I want the money. Um, and a lot of the times it's done out of spite too. So
Right.
shared parenting helps eliminate all of that.
Okay. Would you say that New York is more of the aggressive of all these different states, or pretty much all of them are the same?
No, I'm happy to promote this, but the organization that I work with, the National Parents Organization, we call a report card annually, and we gather data from outcomes from family court outcomes, and research. Everything we do is research based, data based, all factual information based on numbers. New York and Rhode Island right now are the two worst states in America when it comes to equal parenting, shared parenting rights for fathers and mothers after divorce or separation.
Really? Wow, that's
Yeah.
something.
The
Um,
worst, the worst, the two worst in the entire nation.
right. When it comes to the highest level, though, it's full of men. You would think that those men have children and they also separate in relationships. That someone would grab the bull by the horn and try to make this better.
Yeah, well, there's two things I can say to that. One is there's not as many men um, in leadership positions that outnumber women in government as it used to be. There are women senators, women assembly members, women mayors, and right now, especially in like blue states, there's like this feminist wave, propaganda wave. So what happens is, what I believe, a lot of these elected officials, they don't want to go against their constituent voting base, and that's the part
Mm,
that bothered me the most. So you have a million angry fathers in Dutchess County and in Westchester County. You have 4 million angry fathers throughout Lower New York. Um, but you have added that 4 million angry fathers consistently, probably about 1 million of them consistently vote. So what these elected officials are saying is, I know that this is right. I know that allowing these fathers to have equal time with their children is right. But these women over here, they're voting. So as much as I agree with them, I want to stay in this position. So in my opinion, I believe a lot of these elected officials are going to their consistent constituent voters over some of the issues we have in our local communities.
okay. So, guys, we have so many people here, great people in the audience. I'd like to ask you to like, share, subscribe to the channel. We have some good information for you tonight
Yeah,
that
good
affects
afternoon.
a lot of families. Take a moment and tell the new people here who you are, give them a little idea about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. Andre Rainey, former mayor of the great city of Peekskill, New York, current chair of the New York affiliate National Parents Organization, and president of Fathers Are Important, based right in Long Island, New York. And I'm just, working my behind off to ensure that New York becomes a shared parenting state where children have access to both parents equally after divorce and separation, as long as both parents are fit and willing to be parents of the children.
All right, that's amazing. You started off by saying that in the case the lady might say something untrue about you. How do you navigate that in this type of situation?
In New York, you just got to be a pain in the butt, because the thing is, a lot of fathers especially don't realize, that they have rights when they get in court. As disrespectful as some of these judges and support magistrates may be, we do have rights. We just have to exercise those rights. I'll give you an example. When I was in court, my daughter's mother told the judge that I shouldn't. She didn't want me to have custody because she was scared of me, and she told the judge that he's come to my job threatening and harassing me. This is what her attorney said, not her actually. She didn't say these words. Her attorney said these words on record, and I'll explain to everybody how to file grievances and everything later on in this show too. But I was on the other side of the courtroom looking at her like, who is she talking about? Like, have I ever? Not only have I never threatened you, but I've never went to your job and threatened you. She worked at a public health center, like a hospital. Like, I couldn't even imagine going in there with all of the cameras and all of the security places, things they have in place. You got to get through a security in some places, the front desk, before you can even go into the hospital in some cases now. Unless you're a patient in an emergency situation when they drag you back there. So when they said that, I was like, when? So the judge said, okay, any allegation, unfortunately and fortunately, any allegation, the judges, they have to take those serious because you never know, which is something that we have to understand. So judge said, come back with some evidence. 2 months later, we come back to court. Me and my attorney are like, we can't wait to hear what they're going to say now. And find out that none of the stuff was true. So the judge says, okay, well, we're going to dismiss these claims. Now that pissed me off. My thing was, if they're going to lie and create and commit perjury on record, there's consequences for perjury. But what the judge decided to do was just dismiss it and pretend like it never happened. And that it's the most destructive thing that people do. But in most cases, you'll see women's attorneys do that, because once you put an allegation on a parent, in most cases, the judge will take the child away from that parent and give the other parent custody until the investigation, or until the proof is brought to the courtroom. And in most cases, it could take 3 to 4 months before you have another hearing. And after 3 or 4 months of being with one parent, that parent automatically becomes the custodial parent. So now you have to start all over and fight for custody, because you couldn't focus on custody for the last 6 months because of some false accusations that were made up out of the thin air. It's a strategy that a lot of attorneys use for mothers, especially.
Okay, thank you. There's a comment there. Would you like to address it?
Sure, sure. What does it say? It should be illegal to have kids out of wedlock, and it should also be illegal to get a divorce. Um, I don't necessarily have an opinion on that as much as I would have years ago. We all grew up. I grew up in a household where divorce just wasn't an option. Um, but I do recognize that times have changed. And I put this on my Facebook page a few months back, and I got really criticized for it. But I said, when I look at the world today, we can't even sing the old nursery rhyme that we used to sing, because people have changed. We used to sing, Andre and such sitting in the tree, KISSING. First comes love, then comes marriage. Then comes the baby and the baby carriage. Now I own an entertainment business. I DJ too. I get invited to more baby showers than bridal showers and weddings as a whole. So things have changed, and we aren't raising our children the same way they used to be. Some of these influencers now, they're promoting having children and not promoting getting married. So the cultural shift has completely changed. And even in my case, when I met my daughter's mother, she has two older children. One's like 30, one's like 25. When we first met, she told me, like, I'm not having any more kids. I'm letting you know that now. I don't want any more kids. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. And then, not even 2 years in, we're having a baby. And nothing I can really say, but I know what I did. So I just was under the impression that we weren't going to go through this. I thought this wasn't going to be a part of our life, but this is what it is. So it is what it is. And as much as I wish that I would have had all of my children after marriage, you know, so people have other things in mind. They have other directions that they want to go, and unfortunately, we got to take accountability for our choices.
Okay, so here at Watching the World, I often go to different court cases. And when I covered Donald Trump's case, it seemed like the judge was biased against Trump. I noticed that myself. Sean
Yeah,
Diddy Combs, the judge seemed fair. Luigi Mangione, the judge seems like they don't like him, right?
Right.
So when you come into the court as a father in your shared parenting or your child case, is it possible that the judge is already slanted based on your appearance or what they may gather about you?
100%. 100%. And what I encourage people to do is get the transcripts from every possible hearing you can. Review the transcripts, file grievances on every. If there's anything that you notice that's biased, or even seems to be racist or unjust and unfair, file your grievances, because the difference between the court where Trump was at, for example, where Trump's court versus family court is, in family court there's no jury, there's no jury of peers. It's just one woman who, or man, who could have woke up and had a bad day this morning, or somebody who looked like me could have cut him off on the highway this morning. Like, you have one person saying this is what I think is best for the kids, after being with you probably 3 times in 6 months for a 20-minute block. You know, it's hard to accept that, but it's the way the law is right now. So when I walk into a courtroom and I tell the judge I haven't seen my daughter in 3 months, and the judge says, "Oh, that's unfair. I'm going to give you joint custody," and then I look at the joint custody and it says I'm going to see my daughter 4 days out of the month, which is 48 days a year. It's like, what in your mind made you think that that was correct? What made you think that my daughter deserves a 4 day a month father? And there's no jury of peers. There's no written statement on why she came up with this schedule. It's just that's what they're entitled to do it in New York State, which is why we push for shared parenting, because there are biased judges out there. There are racist judges out there. There are judges that have political figures that are close to them that they're working with out there that donate to their campaigns. So, like I said, my predecessor, he was an attorney. So it wasn't odd to know that he's connected to some of these people in this field. So we push for that heavily, because there's so many avenues you can find where these judges are being biased, or even unjust in many cases. But unfortunately, a lot of fathers don't file grievances on these judges, so they end up stuck with the outcome.
Okay, so we're going to take a pause here for a minute. We're having trouble hearing you a little bit. It's
Oh
kind of
no!
digital, so maybe if you could make an adjustment. It's just when you're talking, we see you well.
All right, I'm gonna try it this way. This should make it a little better.
All right, take your time.
Okay, any better at all?
We still have trouble hearing you. Okay, that's right. Maybe when he comes back in, it'll sound much better. Thank you guys. We'll see. If you have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the comment section. I'll definitely have him answer these questions. This is what he do at a high level, and it's very important for you guys to participate tonight if you've had this type of situation develop in your life. We have Stella in the building. Stella says like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified of upcoming shows. Okay. James says transcription takes time, but get them. Okay. I'm going to have him break down how do you actually get your transcripts when he comes back in. All right. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay, that
Check
seems
one.
better now. Say something.
Check one. Can you hear me? Check one.
Yeah, we're still having a little trouble hearing you. I'm not sure what it could be.
Sorry about that. I'll try this. I think only other thing I can think of. All right. Any better now?
Sounds like it might be. Go ahead and try to finish your statement.
Okay. So, but yeah, you will find biased judges. You will find unjust, racist judges. And unfortunately, some of them are just so stuck in the old school way of, after divorce and separation, kids just should go with mom, and some they don't even hear dads out often. But there are several cases where you'll find that some of these judges, they really just, they claim to be overwhelmed, so they rather just push through the cases, and you don't have a jury of peers trying to get the idea of why the judge came up with this decision. You just have one judge in there saying, "Well, this is what I think is best." regardless of what the kids may say or feel or need. The judge can say, "This is what I think is best," and that's the end of the discussion for most people.
Okay. All right. Very good. What about things like COVID? Let's say the child needs to take a COVID shot. How does that line up as far as the father having a say so in the matter?
So in joint custody cases, it's very difficult because in joint custody cases, the language says, both parents have the right to make a decision on the child's school, on the child's religion, on the child's, however, if both parents can't come to an agreement, the custodial parent will have the final say. And unfortunately, after divorce or separation, most of the time it's hard to agree, period. So the person who has the custodial rights usually makes most of the decisions anyway.
Right. Because what if the main party doesn't even mention it to the other one and just has it done anyway?
Yeah, well, my daughter's mother did that to me. She took we agreed that we weren't going to give our daughter the flu shot at the age of 2. And then I went to pick my daughter up from daycare the next week, and they told me that my daughter was sick. She was having diarrhea as a side effect from having the flu shot. And I told the daycare provider, no, she didn't have the flu shot. We didn't get her the flu shot. And come to find out that even though we had agreed not to do it, the next week she took her to do it anyway. So, that's one of those things that make co-parenting difficult, you know. But it's just a challenge. But I just want to address something too, because this is one of the comments that I think I just read. That's part of the issue that we have. That's part of the problem that we have with the shared parenting. I think the comment had said, yeah, there it goes. How can you be so eager to see your daughter yet cause her mother so much pain and heartache? That sounds hypocritical. So that's the same mentality that these judges have. You walk in the courtroom and it's automatically you caused heartache, you caused headache, you created this nonsense. And that's the same mentality that the judges have when we walk in the courtroom. You walk in the courtroom and you say, hey, we don't want to be together anymore. Okay, the man must have caused all of this heartache. This woman right here who just put that comment, she doesn't know that my daughter's mother hit me in the back of the head with the shower head. She doesn't know that. But she automatically assumed that I, as the man, created heartache for her. I had to get order of protections on my daughter's mother because we disagreed on the way she was treating her son. Her son would call at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, "Come pick me up from McDonald's." Like, don't you don't got? He's a grown man. Like, you don't got to do that. And she said, "I'm gonna go pick him up." I said, "All right, fine. Don't come back to my house." And I wouldn't let her back in the house. She pushed it. This when I lived in a smaller house. She pushed the air conditioner in my window to climb in my house. I had to call the police. So, but the same mentality that person has, that's what we face when we go in family court. It's like, why did there's nothing in this conversation that even identified what me or the mother did to get to the point of separation. But that comment shows that's the mentality of the society we're in right now. What did you do to cause so much heartache? That's the same way the judges look at it. As soon as we walk in that courtroom, okay, the man must have done something wrong.
Okay, so we know that these situations are very touchy. So, what happens if you feel like your child's safety may be at risk or there's some security issue? How is that addressed in this type of court situation?
Yeah, so you have to identify any safety concerns to the judge. What they'll do is if you can show the judge clear and convincing evidence of safety concerns, then the judge more than likely will give you a temporary order of protection. And you'll serve the other parent with the order of protection, and the police will help you. They'll assist you with that. They'll remove the child from that person's care, and then you have to go to court to express and share why you're concerned. Now, like I mentioned to you earlier, the young man that I'm friends with, he voiced his concerns to the judge about the mother of his daughter, and the judge didn't believe him. So he went back and forth with this judge, and finally the judge ended up recusing himself from the case, and he got a new judge, and he explained the same narrative to this judge, and this judge offered and provided him with a temporary order of protection against the mother. So the mother couldn't be around him or the daughter until they came to court to express what was going on. When he called the police to go pick up the daughter, the woman came outside with a knife in her hand and ended up stabbing the daughter to death. So to this day, he's fighting for family court law reform, and he's fighting to push for police officers to enforce court orders and orders of protections. Now, had it been the other way around, May it have been different? Probably so. If there would have been a mother that had an order of protection against the father, the police possibly would have went in the house and said it's time to let the baby go. But he lost his daughter. He'll never see his daughter again. And the court order, had they enforced the court order, she'd probably be here today.
Okay, Ray Ray has a very good point there. Could you address it?
But he says the system will side with the pro-vaccine parent. Oh, that. Yeah, I mean, possibly that's another thing. I'm very open on how I feel about certain things, because I understand people's entitled to their opinions. So I don't necessarily argue with other people's opinions if they disagree with mine. And if people can prove me wrong, or if they can show me where their opinion, may make more sense, I don't. I never mind saying that I was wrong in this scenario. Um, but that's possible. That's very very possible that he doesn't want the flu shot, she does, so she cares more about the child. It's possible. And that's exactly why shared parenting is so important now.
Okay, could you just take a moment and tell everyone what you do specifically to push this movement, helping people understand shared parenting?
Yeah, so we do several workshops. I work with another organization in New York called New York Families for Tomorrow. We help modify, draft, and create bills for New York State. As of today, there are four bills that we're supporting, which I'll share with you later, so you can share what you're following in New York. That help parents start off at shared parenting as the first option after divorce or separation, as long as both parents are loving and fit parents. I mean, you don't automatically become a shared parenting person if your background is domestic violence, or you have psychological issues, or just anything that would prevent you from being a good parent to the child. But if two people just decide that they don't want to be with each other anymore, the relationship isn't working out anymore, they can't stand each other, or they cheated on each other, or they just don't love each other anymore, then we don't want the children to suffer losing one parent because the parents aren't in a relationship anymore. So we're pushing legislation in New York State, and in different states in the tri-state area, to ensure that shared parenting is the first option if parents are loving and fit parents. They just had differences in opinions on their relationship.
Do you have any events coming up in the near future?
I do, yes. April 19th, hosting New York's first shared parenting conference in Peekskill, New York. If you're on Facebook, you can follow me, Andre Rainey. If you're on Instagram, it's Andre Rainey for the number. Or if you're on Twitter, it's a new day, ITSANOODAY. But the event is April 19th in Peekskill, New York. You can look it up on in Eventbrite. Just type in shared parenting conference, and it should come right up. We have 200 seats. We have about 40 seats left. It's a free event. We're not charging people, but we do have some powerful stakeholders in the shared parenting world. We have about 32 confirmed organizations from the tri-state area, mostly from New York, that are fighting for shared parenting, all going to be under one roof, right here in New York. So we're looking forward to that. And a few elected officials, too, to come hear us out to see what the possibilities are of making New York a shared parenting state.
Thank you so much. In most cases, or in many cases, when a person goes through a divorce, especially men, I would say there may be some sort of financial strain. That might be the reason why the relationship fell apart. So, what would the father do in this circumstance when he doesn't have the money to really pay for an expensive attorney?
So in New York State, if you can't afford an attorney, they'll provide you with one. If your finances are below a certain threshold, then they'll provide you with an attorney. I just tell people to, when you, I mean, any attorney, a hired attorney or an appointed attorney, you have to really know what you want. Unfortunately, some of these attorneys, they work in the same building for 10, 12 years. So the attorney that they're going against is an attorney that they're going to go eat lunch with after your case is over, and they're going to joke about what they said or what they could have said. It's in any industry. When you work with somebody for 10 years, you become pals, you become friends, you might go out to the same places together. Some of these attorneys have been, especially in Dutchess County, some of these attorneys have been there for 10, 12 years, and they just get appointed case after case after case after case. They make profit off our dysfunction, period. But they get appointed case after case, and it'll be like me and you. We're friends today. If we go to the same court, you're going to get a case and I'm going to get a case. So we're going to go in that courtroom and it's almost like a basketball challenge. Like we're going to see who wins this one. You kind of lose the idea of having an attorney that really cares about you and your child's relationship with you. They'll just go in there and kind of go against their friendly competition type of thing. So if you can't afford an attorney, they will provide you with one. But I always encourage people to get an attorney that's not necessarily connected to that system or that location.
When I covered Sean Diddy Combs' case, I felt like the judge and the prosecutors were having lunch together. It seemed like they were just in the same office. That's the feeling that I captured, right? So
Uh,
when you get a public aid, public defendant, is that basically, going against your interests?
it really depends, but fortunately, in those kind of cases, you do have a jury, so there are more opinions involved in shaping up the outcome of the case. So but again, you can always file an appeal if you disagree with the outcome. Unfortunately, in places like family court, again, there's no jury. The judge doesn't have to give you a written statement on why he or she came up with the decision they made. I provided the judge I had recused herself. Her name was Judge McKenzie. She recused herself from my case, I believe. Um, I submitted 50 pages of documents that she never even looked at. Based on some issues that my daughter's mother had, and she never even read the documents. She did. It wasn't even. She just didn't have time to look at it. She just wanted to kind of get through the case. So you know in family court, it's a little bit more challenging because you don't have a jury there. You don't have a written statement of why the judge came up with this information or what evidence he or she used. It's kind of just okay. You know what? Based on what I see and what I've heard, I think it's in the best interest of the child to do this, and that's pretty much it, which makes the fight even harder, especially if the judge happens to be a feminist judge or anti-man, anti-father, or maybe the judge grew up without their father, so they don't recognize the value of having a father. You never know what you're dealing with when you go to these family courts, which is also why I said we press for shared parenting. Just start it off at the beginning of the separation, start it off equal, and let the child continue to have a relationship with both parents, especially if both the parents are willing and fit.
What causes the judge to take away licenses and also incarcerate individuals in regards to child support?
Yes. So what happens is, after divorce or separation, some parents they'll file for child support. Child support is supposed to be provided to a parent that's taking full responsibility of the child, which is in my opinion, a God-given right. Like you're supposed to have some sort of financial support if you're raising a child on your own. And that's always going to be my opinion. Unfortunately, what we're seeing now is people are trying to keep custody of their children specifically to get child support. It's not that the other parent doesn't want to be involved, not that the other parent doesn't have the means to raise a child. It's just they want more money. There was a football player, they just posted up, I guess, 2 days ago. He has two kids by his girlfriend, and they proposed and they were going to get married sometime next month, and she wouldn't sign the prenuptial agreement, so they called the wedding off. And his mind state is like, this is once we get married, if she decides to divorce him in 6 months, she takes half of everything he worked for. On top of that, she can get child support if she gets custody of the kids. When you go in child support court, let's say the person who files the petition for child support goes in there today and files a petition for child support. So the petition begins on March. They won't give you a court date till probably April or May. You go into court May, if the judge says that they agree that you should be paying child support, you have to start your payments back from March when the person filed, which they call arrears. And the arrears is what usually puts most of the people in position to lose their license or be incarcerated, because if the judge says, I want you to pay 1,500 a month for child support beginning um, May 3rd, you have to pay 1,500 beginning March when they file the petition. So you're already, as soon as the judge says you're going to pay child support, you're already $3,000 behind in arrears. So a lot of fathers are saying, I don't have this type of money. I don't have $3,000 to give to her. She's working a full-time job just like me. So the judge will say, well, she has custody of the child, so this is what the law is. And in some cases, the people just can't afford to pay, and they end up getting suffering, unfortunately, suffering the consequence of not being able to pay. And again, we're not against child support for a parent that's raising the child. We're against child support for a parent that's using that as a way to get child support and keeping the other parent away from the child.
Okay, can you address the comment from Lisa?
Yeah, it says, in my experience, the custodial parent makes medical decisions, and even with shared parenting 50-50 now, or 50-50, I'm assuming, there's still a designated custodial parent. Yeah, so in the language, and for example, in my 50-50 agreement, the language is both parents have to come to an agreement unless of an emergency. So she can't just get up and go. Well, she's not supposed to, at least just get up and go take my daughter to the doctor's tomorrow to get some, what they call it, a turbo booster shot or something like that. We're supposed to negotiate that. Unfortunately, in some circumstances, you have parents that don't believe in co-parenting, or parents that don't believe that they have to negotiate. So they'll go do it anyway, and they won't tell you, and the child will suffer, or you'll have to suffer. But the language in the court order states that we're supposed to make equal decisions unless it's an emergency. So, for example, if they happen to get into an accident, she doesn't have to call me to tell me I want to bring her to this hospital. You know what I'm saying? Or I want to bring her to this doctor. Like, if it's an emergency and you have to take her, then do whatever needs to be done. But for the most part, we're supposed to negotiate and come to an agreement before a decision is made, or it would be considered a violation of the court order.
Okay, very good. James says lots of family court judges side with the mother.
Well, who was that? What's his name? James?
Yes.
James. In 2024, 87% of custodial battles in New York went to mothers. And I highlight the word custodial battles, meaning fathers were fighting to have their children.
Okay, very good. What about gents? You want to address this comment here?
Yeah, sure. We had to fight hard and spend a lot of money to help my son get custody. It just don't happen here. My ex daughter-in-law new boyfriend was abusing my grandkids. Yeah, so well, that's a completely different topic. I mean, grandparents don't even get acknowledged in some family courts. Like that, like that's they treat grandparents like I don't know, like I don't know, just like complete strangers from Canada or something. Like I don't know. It's unfortunate, but yes, but that's true. A lot of fathers that we work with and a lot of women that we work with, unfortunately, some of them don't recognize how bad family court is until they know somebody that's going through it. Even the mothers that I discuss, I had, people on my social media, they'll tell me like, "Yo, it's not that bad. You got custody, let it go." And it's like I can't let it go. And then 2 months later, that same person will tell me, "Hey, a friend of mine is going through this. Can you help them?" And I'm like, "Sure," but 2 months ago you said let it go. It's not that serious. But it's some are calling it the next biggest civil rights movement, because it's not just a New York thing, not just an Andre Rainey thing. You're seeing shared parenting organizations in Australia, Canada. It's becoming a global issue where fathers are pushing to be acknowledged as fathers. Even Judge Judy, I believe, was on the show, and she said that in her years of service, she recognized in family court men just are not treated. They're treated like second class citizens when it comes to parenting time.
Okay, James is an attorney. He says I'm willing to offer my services pro bono. Thank you very much,
Man,
James.
James, listen, come to the if you're in New York or the tri-state area, James, come to the shared parenting event. We got sponsored by the National Parents Organization in order to allow people to come to this event for no charge. So if you're around or available, I'd be happy to welcome you there. There's going to be so many other attorneys, elected officials, and mental health professionals, and just shared parenting advocates at this event, all under one roof. So it'd be great to have you there.
Okay, very good. Let me ask you a question. What about the guys that have, let's say, four children by four different women and they have to pay child support on them all? Is each case taken with the same percentage rate according to the state, or do they factor in all the children separately?
Yeah, it's according to the state. The state has specific percentage based on child after child. I think after a certain amount of children, it stops though. I think like after 7 children, or some high number after 7 children, then they stop it. But yes, it starts off with 17% of both incomes put together for the first child, then it goes to 25% for the second child, and it goes on and on all the way down the line. So I do encourage men. We're at a different day and age. It's healthy to strap up, even get snipped until you're ready. It's not a horrible thing, because you never know. I mean, it's not your body nor your choice. So a person could fall in love with you that you're not necessarily connected to, and you'll be stuck with that person for the next 18 years or more of your life based on a little bit of fun that you're trying to have. So I encourage men, one, if you're going to sleep with somebody these days, try to do it with somebody that you really can see yourself with. Try to really get to know a person, or just protect yourself, because people's emotions drive their decisions, and you don't want to be stuck in a situation with somebody you don't care for simply because you had a good night and too many drinks. So I definitely encourage men to really look at the way the world is now, and definitely make better decisions. Not saying that your decisions are all horrible if you have 4 kids. I have 4 kids by 3 people, and I don't have to pay child support because I have custody of all my kids. But everybody's not that fortunate. But I do encourage people nowadays. Things have changed. Try to find one person that you really, really want to be with if you're gonna put yourself in a position to have kids.
Okay, unfortunately, we're down to our last 10 minutes. I just wanted to ask you a couple questions pointed.
Yeah.
Number one, you mentioned about pulling transcripts. Could you help people understand how to do so?
Yeah, so and when I was in Dutchess County, first of all, they had a list of transcribers outside the walls. So I took this list, and I'd say about 80% of the numbers on that list were all out of service. They were no longer transcribers, they were pizza stores, quarter delis. So you could Google. I think you could probably even use what is that, GPT chat, you could even, or Perplexity, like depending on what county you're in, you can find transcribers in the local area. What you'll do is you call the transcriber, you give them the docket number of your court case and the date of the hearing, and tell them that you want to get the transcripts because you want documents of what was said to you during that case. And they'll call the court, they'll get it, they'll charge you a fee per page. Some people do 50 cents a page, some may do $1 a page. Depending on how long your hearing was, it could be from 1 page to 50 pages or even longer. But once you get those transcripts, if you can highlight areas where the judge was unfair, unjust, or biased, highlight those areas and you can start filing your grievances. That's what I did to get the judges to recuse themselves from my case. And hopefully, if you get a horrific judge and you get the transcripts, you file the grievance, they appoint you a better judge. In most cases, you'll be able to get what you're looking for. But that process could be a long process too. Don't think that you're going to file a grievance on a judge on Thursday, and in 2 weeks from now, everything's going to be different. It could take up to 8 to 9 months sometimes.
Okay. AI Starseed says, what about banning child support?
So the reason that I won't support banning child support is because, as much as I advocate for shared parenting, there are some parents out there that don't want anything to do with the children or the ex, so they give up. So if you're willing to make a child, even if you weren't expecting it, or even if you didn't plan it, if you just give up and say I don't want to be with her, or she's ugly, or he's dumb, or whatever, then you should be able to find some way to support the child. And I think that that's what child support should be for. It should be for the parents that don't want anything to do with the child, or the ex spouse or ex wife or ex husband or anything like that. So I wouldn't completely ban it, but I would try to leverage it to be more for parents who are not being there for their children.
Okay. James says, Florida law will put you in jail for a purge if you owe child support.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I mean, the laws are different in every state. Florida's a little bit better a little bit better than New York as far as custody goes. But as far as child support, I really don't. I wouldn't doubt that.
Okay. Grumpy says, I agree with this man. Family courts are not good for the fathers.
Yeah, that's true. And like I said, it's a worldwide thing. When I went through what I went through, I don't even really share my story as much as I used to, because, like I said, one of the guys I work with, he lost his daughter. He'll never see her again, and he had an order of protection that the police just didn't grant. So there's there's millions of fathers out there that are fighting for custody of their children simply because they divorced, or they were, or they broke up, or the woman filed divorce because she wasn't happy anymore. Like, divorce is more common now. People aren't even getting married anymore, to be honest with you. Having children before marriage is like becoming some sort of trend now. It's like the new norm, if you will.
Okay, there's a comment for you from Pretty Things again.
Yeah, you shouldn't go into marriage thinking about divorce. That should be the very last thing on your mind. Um, I don't think people. I mean, I agree. I don't think people, if I propose to my girlfriend saying, "Hey, I want to marry you," that's because I want to be with you for the rest of your life, for the rest of our lives. But common sense tells me that, I want to play football for the next 15 years of my life. But it's possible that I can get hurt, so I have to have health insurance. It's to me, it just makes sense. I'm a great driver, but I have to have car insurance. I take care of myself. I don't eat a bunch of red meats every day, but I have to have health insurance. Like, that's more like an insurance thing. Like, if things were to go a certain way, I won't lose everything that I've worked for. I'm gonna provide you with a whole new lifestyle because I worked my behind off. If you love me and it's not about the money, then signing it wouldn't be an issue. So
Okay.
there's two perceptions in that situation.
Okay. Grumpy says, I no longer trust courts anymore. Okay, it looks like we lost you. Anymore, the woman that caused the death of one of my twins, high on drugs, won full custody of my other daughter. Oh my.
Wait, say
Sorry to
that
hear
again.
about that. We lost you. Your camera seems to be out. You want to try going out and coming back in?
Okay, absolutely. I see that comment though. I no longer trust courts. My death of one of my twins, high on drugs, on full cut. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
Really
sad to
sorry.
hear
Really
that.
sorry to hear that. Yeah, really sorry to hear that.
Okay, your screen is totally blacked out. Maybe if you exit and come back in again, I think it'll clear up. We're down to our last 5 or so minutes.
Okay,
So,
got it. All
all
right.
right, thank you. So, all right, until he comes back in, James has been an attorney for 24 years. Okay, thank you, James. And thank you for your offer. We're definitely going to be locking in with you, and we have to have you come on the show as well. Andre, are you still there? I mean, Andrew, you still there? Hmm. Okay, I'm not sure what to say here. All right, we'll give it a minute or two and see if we can get this resolved. Lisa says, so if the parents disagree, it goes back to court. Seems unlikely to me. Okay. I believe that is the case. Lisa will have James explain that. Okay, here's Andrew again. Let's see here.
Tell him email a
Okay.
lawyer 24 years. Oh yeah, awesome. We would love to have his insight. That'd be great. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Okay. So, all right. So we're going to go through a few more comments. We're down to our last few minutes. There was a question here from Lisa, I believe. There you
So
go.
if the parents disagree, it goes back to court. Seems unlikely to me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine. Okay. So we're having a major technical issue here tonight. So we're down to the wire, but I think the information has been great tonight. I learned a lot about this challenging situation a lot of people have. Let's see. We could hear you fine, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Good.
so could you address Lisa's point here? Question.
Yeah. All right. Sure. So if the parents disagree, it goes back to court. Seems unlikely to me. Um, I guess the best way to address that is uh look it up. I mean, it's New York State law. It's I don't have to make it up, but you could, yeah, you could look it up. Just if a person violates a court order, what happens? It goes back to court. If a person files a violation. So if the court order says that I'm supposed to pick my daughter up at 2 o'clock, and I don't pick my daughter up at 2 o'clock because mom's decided that she didn't want to drop her off at 2 o'clock, then yes, it's a violation and we take it back to court. And what they'll do is, in most cases, the judge, they'll file a petition to enforce the court order. which means you go to the judge, you tell the judge the other person is making decisions without my input, and the judge will enforce the court order and give the other parent, in most cases, a warning saying that this is what the court order says, this is what you're supposed to abide to. But don't take my word for it. You can look it up. Anything that I'm saying, just you can look it up. New York State law. What happens if a person has a joint custody court order and the language says this and the person does that? You can look it up.
Okay. Now we have a comment. We'll take this final one from John, and then we'll have some closing remarks from you. Would you
Absolutely.
like to
Okay.
would you like to address that?
Sure. I pay 1K a month and had my son every other weekend, all holidays and the whole summer, which was fine with me. Also, all clothes, school supplies, and Christmas gifts and healthcare. That's awesome. I mean, you'll be considered to the people now, an amazing father, but paying child support and taking care of your children, you can't ask for more. Can't ask for more. So I'm happy for you. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And let's see here. Honeybee says, Mel, I love to see your cover parental rights going forward. Okay. We could do that. Would you like to come back and cover that as
I'd
well?
absolutely love to. Once we get some of these bills passed, if we get them passed, I'll be happy to come back to the show and tell you how successful we were on which bills and how unsuccessful we were on other bills. But if they don't pass some of these bills by 2027, then I might end up running for office again. So I'll definitely be
Okay.
glad to come back.
All right, great. We reached our time, but I would like to give you some moments here to talk about some things maybe we didn't address and also really hype up your event that you have coming in April.
Absolutely. We have some amazing internationally known speakers coming. Robert Garza, Don Hubin, Matt Ludwig, Mark Ludwig, Summer Johnson, Jason Hauk, Anthony Gay. Like these are all people who have been fighting and advocating for shared parenting, equal parenting rights for a decade or more. So it's going to be April 19th, like I said, in Westchester County, New York, in Peekskill. You can RSVP online if you go to Eventbrite and just type in Shared Parenting Conference. There is limited seating, but because the event was sponsored, it is free. So if you're available and you want to come, go to Eventbrite, type Shared Parenting New York, and RSVP as soon as possible. You can follow me on Facebook, Andre Rainey, Instagram, Twitter, all of the good stuff. But we are looking to get some of these bills passed in New York within the next 2 years. We're going to need people to come out there and lobby with us, protest with us, come to Albany with us, and just give us some support because we're looking forward to it. So, and thank you again for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for coming on. I look forward to having you back. Perhaps next
Absolutely.
time you could talk about how you became the mayor and a city councilman to really help people understand. Because I believe a lot of people would like to get involved, they just don't see it as a reality. So when we see brothers like yourself, it's motivating. It
Yeah.
helps a lot of people.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I was the second African American, and I was the youngest. Still hold the title as the youngest mayor of my city too. So, but I'd be happy to come back and share that too. I really appreciate it, brother.
Thank you so much for coming on. We want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight for this very important subject, right? We're not pushing on the ladies or we're not favoring, we're just getting to the points, and these points are very important in the world that we live in, trying to navigate through the court system. Thank you so
Right.
much for highlighting that. We also have James in the audience, who's an attorney. He looks like he's going to be joining you on some of this and watching
Yes.
the world too. So this was a good moment. You see how coming on really opened up a door too. So thank you
Absolutely.
guys. We'll see you back tomorrow for news at noon. So tune in tomorrow at 12 Eastern Standard Time. We have Andrew Rainey. We thank you so much, and everybody have a great night. Thank you.
Peace and love. Thank you again.
All right. Bye.
Different voices, but the same song. Building a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the flame remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beat as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.